By now you will no doubt have watched the video of Trump and Vance appearing to bully and humiliate Zelensky while he tries his best to fend off the attacks. Whether Zelensky is at fault for the spat is divided along political lines, with conservatives blaming Zelensky and liberals blaming Trump and Vance. I decided to watch the entire video to see for myself how the meeting between the two sides went south. It is quite a long video, about 50 minutes, so I will only highlight the key moments of the exchange. The meeting starts off very cordially, with Trump opening the discussion by giving Zelensky some positive words, but throwing in that America will have access to Ukraine's rare earths. Trump then proceeds to talk about the peace negotiation with Russia and expresses his desire to bring the deal to a close. At around 1:45, he repeats the line he has said previously that if he were president instead of Biden, the war would never have happened. More compliments follow, with Trump continuing to ramble on. Just after 3 minutes, Trump invites Zelensky to say a few words. He thanks Trump for the invitation and states his wish for the document, by which I think he means agreement, will provide security guarantees for Ukraine. He speaks for a while about what he wants from the deal, and throws in that Putin is a killer and a terrorist. The notable things he says are an exchange of licenses for drones and air defense, his desire to have Ukrainian children returned from Russia, and the treatment of Ukrainian prisoners by Russia. Zelensky even shows Trump some pictures. He thanks Trump again at around 7:40. Make a note of this because it becomes relevant later. Trump then takes over, opening the floor to questions from journalists. Trump manages to steer the conversation back to his desire to get Ukraine's rare earths and then reiterates his desire to end the war, citing the thousands currently dying as they speak. Trump mentions America gave more to Ukraine than Europe, but Zelensky points out that Europe was very supportive of Ukraine. Trump insists Europe gave much less, at which point Zelensky openly disagrees with him. They have a chuckle and let reporters ask more questions. In reply to a question, Zelensky states that America and Trump are on his side and that they will not stop their support, but adds that Putin started the war and hopes allies get Putin to withdraw troops from his land. The next significant moment occurs at around 1840, where a reporter asks a disparaging question about Zelensky not wearing a suit and whether he even owns a suit. Zelensky handled this moment by saying he would wear one after the war, maybe one like the reporter wears, or maybe something better. It turns out the reporter is Glenn, who is the partner of shrill Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. The next segment is dominated by Trump, and there is nothing to note here. Just Trump rambling on as he tends to do. At around 23 minutes, Zelensky provides some context to the war, explaining in 2014 Putin broke ceasefire deals 25 times. Trump adds that he wasn't president at the time, which Zelensky already knew. Zelensky adds details to the war, which basically attacked Putin. This goes on for a little while Trump sits quietly. More Trump rambling. Zelensky follows on from Trump by emphasizing that this is not a war between Russia and the United States, but a war by Russia against Ukraine, and that these two sides will be at the negotiation table with America and Europe. He again points out that Europe is very important, directly contradicting Trump, who wants to downplay Europe's contributions. He warns that Russia intends to make a move on the Baltics and Poland, at which point American soldiers would fight. He states having an ocean in between won't matter. There is a question about freedom of speech at around 35 minutes, which is answered by Marco Rubio and Vance, but this has no bearing on the fallout. There was a good question from a Polish journalist after 38 minutes about fears from Poland that Trump is too closely aligned with Putin. Trump seems to defend this by explaining that it helps in negotiating a deal with the Russian president, but also says he is not aligned with Putin. He also seems to be mocking Zelensky by pointing out his hatred for Putin, which makes a deal very difficult. In summary, up to now the conversation has remained friendly, despite disagreements, such as Europe's contribution to helping Ukraine. If the conversation had ended here, there would have been no drama. But shortly after, at around 40 minutes, Vance jumps in, defending Trump's approach while attacking the approach taken by Biden, stating that the path to peace and the path to prosperity is diplomacy. It is at this point where things turn icy. In my opinion, it was a simplistic take by Vance, and I think it prompted Zelensky to respond by again pointing out that Russia occupies large parts of Ukraine. He then proceeds to give Vance a history lesson on Russia's behavior towards Ukraine and Russia's broken ceasefires. Any chance of a friendly end to the meeting is extinguished when Zelensky asks Vance, "What kind of diplomacy, JD, are you speaking about?" Vance goes into defense mode, saying, "I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media." He mentions forced conscription of Ukrainians. He then says Zelensky should be thanking the president, even though earlier he did. This is followed by a back and forth between Zelensky and Vance, where Vance again shows his lack of understanding of the issue. Vance tries to turn this into a Zelensky attack on the administration, even though prior to this the meeting had remained friendly. Zelensky, for his part, remains cool and does his best to respond to Vance's string of questions, but he makes the mistake of saying America will feel it in the future. It sounds like a threat, but this ties into what he said earlier about Russia expanding the war, which would lead to American troops getting involved. Trump appears to interpret the former because he breaks his silence and joins in, telling Zelensky not to tell America what they are going to feel and that he is no position to dictate that, but saying it in a forceful way like a parent telling off a child. By this point, the amicableness has disappeared and Trump is talking aggressively to Zelensky, constantly interrupting and blaming Zelensky for the possibility of World War III, accusing Zelensky of disrespecting the country. Vance pipes in with the stupid question, "Have you said thank you once this entire meeting?" and then accuses Zelensky of campaigning for the Democrats. Zelensky tries to get words in, but Trump joins in for another round of berating Zelensky, followed by Vance, who has been let off the leash. At between 45 and 46 minutes, Trump opines that it is good for the American people to see what is going on. "You have to be thankful," says Trump. There is more of Trump rambling and Zelensky trying to get a word in before a reporter saves Zelensky from further humiliation by asking Trump, "What if Russia breaks the ceasefire?" But Trump provides a non-answer. More Trump rambling followed by the embarrassing line, "This is going to be great television." And that's it. A meeting about ending a conflict devolved into a free-for-all against Zelensky. I think it came down to Vance getting hurt and lashing out in response. Trump probably felt he needed to back his vice president, or his disdain for Zelensky came out, and he let his mouth loose. Either way, this made America look bad to the rest of the world. Whether Trump supporters care is another matter.